Hey guys, welcome back. It's Veronica, and in today's video I'm going to show you guys how I edit my thumbnails using Ipiccy. So before we get into anything, I really just want to show you guys how I set up my pictures before taking them. Because let's face it, you're just better off getting it right the first time, and then that's just less you have to edit later. So I always like to start off with a white backdrop, and then I just kind of like to play around with how things look. And I usually have my camera set up on a tripod above to start off. Then I just kind of take some things that I'm going to use in the video or the thing that I made, and I just kind of place them around the frame. But I think the biggest thing is just placing your subjects in a way that leaves a big blank spot above everything for your thumbnail text. So once you kind of got your thumbnail, then I go into Ipiccy to edit. I really like this editor because it has a lot of great tools that can help you to edit your photo. From simple things just like adding texts to more advanced things like playing with the clone tool and the curves, which I'm going to show you guys how to do. A few things you can do once you get into the editor. You can click upload photo, create a collage, or make a design. But I usually just upload my thumbnail. So this is just kind of going to be your editor setup. You're going to have your picture and then your tools on the side. So the first tool I'm going to show you guys is the curves tool. And this basically just helps you to lighten and darken your photo, along with kind of helping with the contrast. So in the curves tool, you can select green colors, blue colors, or red colors. Or you can just select all of them by selecting RGB. And I usually don't get into the different colors, I just stick with all of them at once. So you're just going to want to click into the center of your line. Then you can either pull it down for darker colors or pull it up for brighter colors. And I try and keep it kind of centered in the corner of the square. That's usually what I do. Then you can kind of play with the fade tool. Once you like what you have, just click apply. So the next tool that I use a lot is the clone tool. And this just helps you to erase any imperfections you might have in your photo. And this one I noticed that I did not have really anything that I wanted to get rid of, but just for the sake of showing you guys, I'm going to find a few very minor things that we could fix. Normally I would just ignore these, but we'll just fix these. So the first thing you want to do with the clone tool is set your source. So basically your source is going to be the area where you take your color texture from. So first click onto your photo with your green and that will set it. Then you'll see another bubble and that's just going to be kind of like your brush. So you can play with the brush size, the brush hardness, which is just going to be like the sharpness of your edge, and then also your brush strength, which is going to be like your opacity. So I usually like my opacity up pretty high. And then we're just going to take your brush and kind of erase your flaw. So let's do that again on this. Let me click set source to reset your source, and then just erase that too. And then if you want to click the eraser, you can always erase anything you might have done to reveal your flaw again. So I'm just going to cover that up real quick. And then you can always play with fade and unfade too, but I usually don't mess with that too much. And then once you like what you have, just hit apply. And like I said again, there really wasn't anything wrong with this photo. I just wanted to show you guys how the clone tool works, because I use that a lot. Another section that I use for my thumbnails is the retouch section, which has a lot of cool tools that come in really handy for editing. I'm not going to be using any of these in this video, but I just wanted to show them to you guys. I also like using the photo effects section, which has a lot of filters, blurs, and just other cool effects. And this editor has a lot more tools than this, but these are just the tools that I find myself using a lot for my thumbnails. So The next thing that we are going to click is textures. What textures are is it's basically just kind of like a background you can put in. So as you can see, there are a lot of different textures to use. You can use paper or fabric, and most of the time when I use these, I always try and dial them back with the fade so they're not as harsh. But lately I've been finding myself using add your own texture, which is just uploading a picture that you may already have had. For example, right now I'm just going to be using a plain white background. Once you apply your texture, you're just going to want to play with the modes of blending. Normal mode, you probably won't see your texture. Light mode, which I use a lot, is just kind of like a brighter overlay. So now I'm going to go in and click the paintbrush tool, and then I can just erase what I want in the photo, leaving the rest of the photo covered with the overlay. I'm just going to erase some of this stuff. And sometimes I like to soften up my edges on my brush to get the edges of things a little better. Once I'm finishing touching up, I also like to pull up my fade really bright so that I can see if I miss anything. And then I'll just kind of dial that down to maybe, let's say 30. Next, we're just going to hit the Blender tab. And this is just a spot where you can add layers to your photo. So first you're going to start out with your background layer. Two little buttons on it. You can either click the eye to hide a layer or make it visible, and you have a lock tool on it. And a lock tool just basically keeps your layer from moving. Next we have a few buttons on top. We have the add photo button, the add sticker button, add text button, and then the vector shape. So I'm just going to click add text, and then I'm just going to type into my little box what I want on my thumbnail. So you can play around with all the different settings, maybe center it or make it bold or play with the color. I like the color because you can use this little eyedropper to select colors from your photo. And then you can just go through the whole list of fonts. Next, you can kind of just put it where you want it. And the cool thing about this is that you can put something on the page, but then you can move it around later if you decide to do it differently. So now I'm going to add another text layer, and I'm just going to find the font and kind of put this how I want it. You can see I'm kind of playing with angles again, where like the book's slanted one way and then the words are slanted the other way. So now I think I'm going to make this caps, just because one thing I like to do with my text is always have some contrast. I like to have maybe like a curvy, bold text, and then maybe like a straight, maybe even caps text, just so that you have some separation. I think I'm going to make this blue, and then as you can see on the side here you have all of your layers. So you can delete layers and add layers and just play around with these. So the next thing I think I'm going to do is add a photo. To add a photo, you just want to go up into the corner and click your add photo button. When adding a photo, you just need to allow local storage, which just basically allows Ipiccy to store memory and cookies onto your computer. So then just click allow, and then you can upload photos. Now just hit the upload button, and I already have an emoji picked out, which if you're using a picture, it really helps if it has a white background because it just blends in easier. So just drag that onto your photo, and then you can move this around a little bit, make it bigger or smaller, and then you can play with the blending modes. Each one does different things, but I think Skin works the best as far as clearing out your white background. Now I'm just going to shrink this down, and as you can see on the edges, your white background is gone. But you can also kind of spin it and rotate it. So then I decided just to put this next to my text and kind of resituate everything, which is one of the super nice things about this editor because you can change things later on. once you have your photo how you like, click the little check mark up in the corner to combine your layers and close the layer tab. Now it's just one layer altogether. So you can click the undo and redo button just to kind of see what you did. So the next thing I usually do with my thumbnails is crop them a little bit more. When cropping, you want to hit scale photo. Just keep your cropping box the same width as your photo, so you're not making it more square or longer or shorter. One thing that I really like about the cropping tool is that on the cropping box they have a grid, which is super awesome because I always use that for the rule of thirds. And for those of you who don't know, the rule of thirds is basically just a rule that photographers follow to compose their pictures. So, for example, you want all of the interesting points of your photo to be in the X marks of the grid. And then if you do want to alter the size of your thing a little bit, you can unclick scale photo. So then once you're done cropping, just hit apply. And then for this photo, I think that's going to be it. So once you're finished, just click the little save button and then just type in what you want your thumbnail to be called, and I usually keep it a JPEG. And then right over here where it says size, you want to make sure it's smaller than 2 megabytes because YouTube doesn't allow for larger thumbnails than that. So then I'm just going to hit save to your computer, and then it will tell you that it's saved. Alright guys, so I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, give it a big thumbs up, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!